Hello, thanks for joining me, astrologer Patrick Arundell, for your August monthly horoscope for the Sun or the Ascendant. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, I'd be honoured if you did so now. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. Every time I share some content, you will get an alert. Also, if you'd like to get your free daily horoscope to your device every morning, please see the link below this video and you can sign up. Also, if you'd like to take advantage of my fabulous offer of a 12-month forecast, a character analysis based on your time, date and place of birth, totally unique to you, to give you searing insights of your future prospects and potentials, please also see the link below. That is 30% off. Hello Pisces, and welcome to your in-depth forecast for August. This month begins with Venus, the planet of relating, and Mars, the planet of passion, in your 7th house of relating. So a wonderful opportunity to connect in a more effective way. This doesn't necessarily have to be only through a personal romantic relationship. All sorts of interactions can be boosted. Venus in the 7th house is very harmonizing. It's very much about finding the point of agreement. Mars is more feisty, but it's no bad thing to know where to assert our boundaries. But the two together are working very helpfully for your sign in particular. Now, as we begin this month, there is a very unusual event, and that is the Sun and Mercury are absolutely aligned. This is known as cazimi. It's not absolutely rare, but it's not very common that this happens. And the part of your situation that they're active in is the 6th house, which is a kind of very Virgoan feel to it. It's about everyday organisation, it's about routines, it's about diet, health, fitness, where we're of service. It can be about aunts and uncles, it can be about animals. So Mercury is about how we think on our feet. It's about our communication. Can be about distribution and transportation, of course. Can be about appointments in this particular area. But the Sun amplifies the power of Mercury. So don't underestimate your skills for being very patient and applied. You have a huge capacity to help others. You can be very, very self-sacrificing, which is a great gift. The downside is that sometimes you'll give so much of yourself, there's nothing left for you. So I think what the Sun and Mercury combination are saying, and Mars in the 7th house, is do of your best for others, but also make sure that you create the time for your own health strategies. So if you find yourself cooking from scratch, reading Mercury, taking in knowledge, some new ways of cooking or preparing food, learning more information about vitamins and minerals, perhaps thinking about the type of job you do. If you are a natural people person, which is often the case with Pisces people, are you in an organisation where there's enough thank you, appreciation and recognition of what you do? If you're laughing out loud because there's so little, do think again, are you giving too much of yourself? Are you basically bending yourself into several ways of being in order to not let down someone you're supporting? And that can be particularly true if you're in the health sector or you work with those who are less fortunate. Pisces people are often very active in those kind of areas. And on the other side of the heavens, the rather grim energies of Saturn is opposing the Sun and Mercury in that wonderful connection. So you can't ignore the psychological side of any situation, your spiritual side, your emotional needs. They're all part of the holistic whole that governs our health. If you're only focused on things in a more sensitive way or a more practical way, things are out of alignment. So this is a great opportunity at the start of this month to ask yourself some important and searching questions, but also be honest enough to make some changes if you are not feeling as well aligned or feeling as healthy as you could be. This is not anything that's going to come from the planets. this is what is going on in you. And the planets are just asking the rhetorical question, could you make some changes? Could you make some alterations to your lifestyle? Now, also through the first 9 days of this month, the Sun is in a clash with Uranus. Now, Uranus generally has been a bright spark for you since March the 7th, 2019, and for 5.5 months in 2018, because it's been in your third house, which is very much about everyday ideas. If you work in technology, or you have something to say, so you're a writer, or you have your own blog, or you're someone who is involved in short spurts of distribution, you may have really enjoyed Uranus's influence. But this one is quite aggravating to your nervous system. So through that first 9 days, and then on the new moon in Leo on the 8th, Uranus is in the mix. So your health system needs to be looked after and soothed in lots of different ways. So I think what the third, sixth house right angle is saying, don't be too virtuous. So that's a strange thing to say with that combination between the Sun and Mercury, which rules the sign of Virgo, which is pushing you to be virtuous, but don't be too virtuous. So in other words, if you make some changes, make them at your pace. Prioritize what is the most important thing for you to achieve, and just pick things off one at a time. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to be quite so sacrificing, whether it's for others or even for yourself. Just set some achievable targets. Now on the 11th, very good news, because Mercury moves out of the 6th house but into its home zone of Virgo, thus your 7th house. And this can create greater clarity around relationship issues. If there has been some brittleness with someone around you, or you felt a bit tense and it's been difficult to be quite as relaxed as you would like, this will help. The 15th, however, does see a quarter moon in Scorpio, your sister water sign. So this creates a 6th, 9th house dynamic. Here you could be really suddenly resentful of all your demands and want to create some space. If you can take a few days off and just chill out, take that opportunity. The 16th, however, is fascinating because Venus moves into its second home zone of Libra. For you, this is deep and it's passionate. It's the 8th house. This could trigger some money coming in for you. It could be from a pension, a legacy, a savings plan, or a business a venture, or if you're involved in a partnership, your partner's fortune can come back to you in a constructive way. The 20th sees Uranus in that third house go into retrograde, the last of the outer planets going into retrograde. So we already have Jupiter in retrograde, Saturn and Neptune, which went retrograde last June, and they're joining up with Pluto and Uranus now. So Uranus retrograde through to the 17th of January next year. So if you have been feeling a bit ragged around your nervous system, it might be good to think about different strategies, because the third house is thinking. The internet has obviously a kind of white wall of information these days, and not all of it is particularly relevant. A lot of it is incredibly frivolous, and obviously some of it can be just quite happy to while away our time looking at silly memes and tweets and TikTok things, because they're very engaging and they're fun. But because this third house energy rules that technology, perhaps if you're spending so much time soaked up looking at that stuff, maybe you need more time to create space, which Uranus governs, away from all that electronic information, and to give yourself a bit more time for tranquility. And the blue moon, which occurs on the 22nd in Aquarius, is in your 12th house, and it's in a conjunction with your co-ruler of Jupiter, which of course is in retrograde. Now, the other full moon, which occurred when the Sun just went into Leo in Aquarius a month ago, that also forged an aspect to Jupiter, but it was a semi-sextile. This is much more helpful. This is saying the more you can balance your physical world with your emotional world and integrate them, and not be hung up about if you feel a bit a bit weary, or you feel a bit anxious, or there are some things in your past that cause pain, if you can integrate these into your practical reality, it's going to be a very good thing to do. And Jupiter is very much about knowledge. So your psychological knowledge can be boosted at the end of this month and into the first week of September. And some kind of spirit guide can step forwards, or you can read something or find someone who actually is a much more thoughtful contributor to what can guide your moves. And that can be very inspirational. But later on the 22nd, the sun moves into Virgo, where it loves to be. So this then really puts Virgo season absolutely on fire, because we have Mars, Mercury, and of course the sun. So this is all about where you're setting your boundaries, where you're interacting with others, where you need to be competitive. In traditional astrology, the 7th house is known as the sector of open enemies. So it could be the person at work that we don't particularly like. We're not going to go out for a meal with them, but we know what their sort of mode of operandum is, but we have to deal with them. And what is going to happen here is the sun gives you more strength for those interactions. But if you are wanting to meet someone, having those three players in that part of your chart towards the end of this month is potentially very helpful. It's just that from the 23rd to the 27th, Mercury is mangled by Neptune, your other co-ruler. Now, Neptune, as you know, gives you that enormous capacity for compassion, but it also is very ephemeral. It's very hard to pin down. It's gassy. And maybe someone will tell you something. You could go on a date and that person seems very, very charming and very interesting to you, but you might feel that their mystery is such that you can't quite get to the bottom of what they're about. That's possible. It's also possible that you may be negotiating around a business situation and someone seems a bit tricky. Listen to your sixth sense. But then on the 30th, Mercury joins up with Venus in your 8th house, and this gives you the ability to dive deep in a very, very powerful way. So if there has been a bit of confusion with that Mercury-Neptune opposition, you can start to unlock the solutions as this month draws to a close. So it's an exciting month for you. It may start off in what seems a little bit of an unsexy way with that Sun-Mercury conjunction, or cazimi opposite Saturn, and the Sun's buzzing right angle to Uranus, which could put your nerves on edge. But don't underestimate the energy going on in your sector of relating. There's an opportunity to put some kind of relationship on a much better footing, and it's really down to you whether you choose to seize the moment.